Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Moving the Magnets, where we await the teams to be released, and they will be announced at 6:20 tonight. We'll get the full team, and we can discuss the potential 23. Excuse me. I always have YouTube open on another tab, and then my live stream just gets in the way of it all. But as I was saying, once the teams are announced, we can sort of talk about the potential lineup and how that looks. And yeah, there's a bit to get through as always. There's never a dull moment as a black and white fan when it comes to the news and the media. So we'll address the elephant in the room. And that first one, which came out pretty early in the morning, and that was the car accident in in the Bayside, which involved a certain Brazzy Maynard. Now, fortunately, he is okay and has come out of this uninjured, as well as the other two passengers in the ute that also came out of this unscathed. So, firstly, grateful that all people involved are okay and safe. That's the most important thing. But just quietly, can't stop the Braz. You just can't. He's impenetrable. On the field, off the field, you can't stop the man. Plantar fasciitis, car accidents, brick wall, doesn't matter. He just, yeah, his soul is indestructible. So, look, good to hear that he's okay. Apparently, he'll train tomorrow, which is the captain's run, and he will get through that and then be available for selection. So he'll be more than likely named tonight. There are a few players under an injury cloud at the moment, including Josh Dacos, who has an ankle test or a fitness test tomorrow for his ankle at the captain's run. So while he may be named tonight, he might be a late withdrawal depending on how his ankle pulls up in the next couple of days. It'd be a great shame if he doesn't make it to the starting line on Saturday, because we would be starved of the Dan Houston and Josh Dacos connection. But it will come around at some point. We're just, fingers crossed it's going to be on Saturday night as opposed to next Friday night against the Doggies. So there's Josh Dacos who's in the conversation. Mason Cox is available. We'll say that again. Mason Cox is available, and you just don't know. Tim Embry was in the white side when they did their match sim, and you don't read into the white side a great deal just because when you're training at AFL level, you can only have so many players on the list. Therefore, you got to pick two sides to participate in the match sim, and there's only so many VFL players available as well. So read into that as you will. Would Fly, press the panic or get into his panic station and look to make changes already as far as player selection is concerned? That's another thing we'll find out tonight. I don't foresee that happening, although stranger things have happened, especially when Fly is picking a team. So we'll see. We'll find out in just a little bit over 32 minutes. We'll know more about what the team looks like. Who else is there that's in the conversation? Well, we know Will Hoskin-Elliott's not available, so that probably solidifies Ned Long's spot in particular into the squad. He'll most likely be a sub. And Ed Allan hopefully retains his spot starting. I really liked his work as an inside mid against GWS in that first half especially. Sort of fizzled out like the rest of the team in the second half. But certainly a few things to ponder going into the game on Saturday. Some news about another father-son prospect that could join Collingwood at the end of this year, and that's a certain Oscar Loney. Now, that surname may ring a bell because of one Ryan Loney, who represented Collingwood. He's played over 100 games for the club, which makes his kids eligible for father-son. Now, Oscar definitely has a bulk of work to do to prove himself to be draft worthy. He played as a bottom major for the Stingrays and did make the squad again. He's been named in the list, on the list of the Stingrays. He is growing into that key size position as a forward. So it's another player that we'll keep a close eye on, along with Thomas McGuan in the Coates Talent League. Now, we know Thomas McGuan is all but a certainty to be a first-round draft pick. Oscar Loney, we have our reservations about, but it's good to see that there's a potential to carry on the Loney name in the black and white. So that's really exciting. Very exciting. Do you think we're too old, like no cap, says Zachariah? I reckon we'll know more over the course of a 5-game span, not after 1 or 2 games. Manny says, enough is enough. If players refuse to chase or perform, they need to be dropped. Examples need to be made. Fly needs to put his foot down. Some players are comfortable. Again, we'll find out if Fly is ready to jump the gun tonight and make some changes, or if he sticks with the bulk of that team that fronts it up against GWS. Melissa, hey champs, how are you? I'm good. How are you doing? Chris Talbot, hey Anthony, hey mate, how you going? Stephanos, good evening. Mark Sheehan, Loney launching it from outside 50. Imagine that, throwing it back, right? Throwing it way back. So I sat down and forced myself through a Ken Hinckley press conference. So it's interesting watching another coach's full press conference and sort of just getting to know their tendencies and how they navigate around a press conference. He's a bit tongue-in-cheek, isn't he, Ken Hinckley? We talked about players like Radigolia, who have been under an injury cloud recovering from knee surgery. He's going to play minutes in the sample, so he won't be available for AFL selection against Collingwood on Saturday. It certainly hurts their key tall stocks, which is already somewhat depleted. They're already missing Zerk Thatcher, who's in the back line typically, and Todd Marshall, who is typically in the forward line. Along with Charlie Dixon retiring, it's going to be a makeshift key stock department on Saturday for Port. So I look for Collingwood. I hope that Collingwood look to take great advantage of that sort of unsteadiness in the key tall departments for Port Adelaide. Their first round draft pick from 2024 in Joe Berry is going to debut. He was picked 15, played for the Murray Bushrangers, kicked 27 goals in 14 games. So they've definitely, I don't know if he'll play forward or if he plays backline as like a small defender, but it would certainly help their small forwards. You pair him with the likes of Willie Rioli, and then you've got Joe Richards, of course. So that's going to be Joe Richards' return game in Melbourne against his former club, the Pies. Joe Berry in particular had 14 touches against the Saints, so he's been given the nod. And you look for Collingwood to abuse their experience in these cases where we're coming up against first game is in Joe Berry. Really look to overwhelm them. So I've got a quote from Ken where he talks about their makeshift tools in the team right now. He said, it's going to look clunky for us. So he hints that without Radigolia, Charlie Dixon, Todd Marshall, forward of centre, it's going to look inconsistent when attacking early days. So that's just an opportunity for Collingwood to pounce on their lack of synergy in the forward line when it comes to their tools, especially. So, I mean, you look at the GWS game, we had a team that was relatively new in the forward line as far as synergy was concerned and chemistry and whatnot. But if the Pies struggled with 3 recognizable key forwards, and Port certainly don't have 3 recognizable key forwards for them coming up against us on Saturday, playing against a great side in regards to ball movement into our forward 50, then we should expect that the same standard of Collingwood going into this game. So the expectation that Port's forward line won't bode well together initially. They'll take time to get through a few things and work together cohesively. I think that's something Collingwood need to take advantage of, like GWS did against our forward line. You could argue there were issues in the midfield and the back line, and that connection wasn't there from mids to forwards, but you still have to make the case that Collingwood need to take advantage of this forward line that hasn't spent much time together. So we've also played a game as well. So we've got a bit of match conditioning. We're past the anxieties of that first game, the first game jitters. Port hopefully will have to deal with that themselves. So all of that, and then they also don't have Dan Houston off their half back line. So who they look to in replacement for Houston is probably someone to a certain extent in like a Jeremy Finlayson, who played really well against St Kilda in that practice match in the back line. also a really good intercepting mark threat. Houston is also that. So expect to see Houston show off his defensive prowess. We all applauded him for his offensive capabilities, but he can also take an intercept mark. He averaged nearly 2 intercept marks a game last season. So that will alleviate pressure off Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, Reef McInnes, Isaac Quaynor. So really positive to have someone like Houston back into the side. And boy, do we need him. The other quote that I've got from Ken Hinkley's press conference is, "We like the look of Soldo and Sweet." Soldo and Sweet, Jordan Sweet, Ivan Soldo are both ruckmen, genuine ruckmen, out and out. So if Port are likely to go 2 genuine ruckmen, does Fly press the big red button and call in Mason Cox? Because I feel like we were robbing Peter to pay Paul a lot on the weekend when Matchday was in a ruck. He spent about 30% of his time on ground in the ruck, giving Darcy Cameron some respite. There were times where that DC was in the forward line. He looked okay there. He took a mark or two inside 50. Probably took more marks than all 3 of our key forwards put together. I know Mychek probably took 1 or 2. Matchday maybe took 1. Membry, I don't think he took a mark inside 50. So this is something that we'll find out very shortly as to whether we decide to match that with 2 ruckmen going in for Port. Do we do the same thing with bringing in Cox? That's the big question I think we're all probably hoping to have an answer for, right? Melissa says, "I'm looking forward to us playing really well on Saturday night, and that last Sunday was an anomaly for us." I think we're all hoping that, right? Cox should come back in the side this week for Membry. Hey, it's not out of the stretch of it's not out of the realms of imagination, right? McCreary to tag Horn Francis, or he'll just run amok. Well, that's what I'm concerned about. Like, who in my preview I said, if we see Pendlebury line up on Jason Horn Francis centre bounce, I'll cry. It's just not gonna. It's not the matchup you want. I reckon Rosie and Nick Dacos will shake hands at the start of the game, and they won't see each other until the end of the game. They'll run their own ways. But yeah, Jason Horn Francis, there needs to be a man kept accountable and someone literally just standing by his shoulder the whole game. And maybe you do a tag team effort where Bo McCreary probably starts on him. You give a bit of Jack Crisp to him, and then maybe Harry Perryman around the stoppages. But centre bounce is going to be important to have players that can keep up with Jason Horn Francis' speed, breaking out of the front of those centre bounces, which is what we don't want to see. Chris, how you going? Peter G says Pies by 50. Schultz should get dropped. He was not good last week. I think this is a man that's not. He's not immune to getting dropped this year, Lockie Schultz. I think if Will Hayes shows some really good form in the VFL, Lockie Sullivan is someone who can also play in the forward line. I think Schultz is going to have some really honest games and convert some goals for us, some shots on goals, and have some quality looks going inside 50. It wasn't his best start to the year. The difference between Shooter having a good game and a bad game on the weekend, though, was literally just kicking straight. But that's why you get paid the big bucks in the AFL. Bad kicking is bad footy, some would say, and good kicking is good footy. Must win convincingly against Port, says Stephanos. Definitely consider bringing in Mason Cox. Must win convincingly. Stephanos, if you're in the chat, what does that look like to you? We're talking like, do we need to win by 5-6 goals? Or do you just want a win and then some positive signs? I probably want to see, if there's 3 things on my checklist, I want to see from a team element, you probably want cohesiveness, you want fast footy, and you just want, what's another one? Cohesiveness, fast footy, and tackling pressure. Sticking tackles more than anything. I feel like there was I know Champion Data keep record of the broken tackles, but we don't have access to that. But I would like to know, especially in our defensive 50, how many times GWS broke tackles and led to a goal. I know Isaac Quaynor would have been guilty of it once or twice in one specific sequence. He missed a tackle in the middle, and then to his credit, he chased back into the defense, but then he failed to stick a tackle on Darcy Jones, and he had a little snap over his shoulder to kick a goal. So sticking tackles is really important for mine on Saturday. Deacon says, I think Reef should come back up front again. I think they're done with the idea of Reef playing in the forward line, which is why they're trying him in the back line. They say, before you throw them out, throw them back. And that's what they've done with Reef. And I'm going to hold my breath for a little bit longer with Reef. I think we'll get a better idea once again. I think you can't really make any assessments on where we're at until you're 3-4 games into the season. Obviously, you need wins to keep your head above water so that you can get a better idea. If you're losing for 0-3 and 0-4, the problem with that is, yes, now we know where we're at, but by the time we're 0-3, 0-4, the season's already almost out of reach. It's a long way back. So that's something we have to bear in mind. Yeah, so I can't pronounce your name, but I'll put it on the screen. You say can't drop him if most of the side was shit. That's true with Shooter. Like I said, you just can't. It's similar with Ash Johnson. You don't want to give Lockie Schultz or Reef McInnes the Ash Johnson treatment and make someone a scapegoat because we're not performing well as a team. If things aren't clicking all across the ground, key position players especially are gonna made to look not so good. So Bergman is typically a winger, isn't he, Peter G? So that will be interesting. Rick says Cox has to play, chop out Cameron, and can be important down the line to make a contest, and always worries defenders in the forward line. Don't expect him to have 30 possessions, just play as well. I mean, if you're ever expecting Mason Cox to have 30 possessions, then you're dreaming. But I get your point. I do get your point. I'm intrigued to know, it's a what if, but what if Mason Cox had an assignment like Sam Taylor on Sunday? Would have Sam Taylor had 9 intercept marks? I don't think so, but it is what it is. We can't live in the past. I feel like it's going to be a thrashing one way or the other, says Mark. For us, Stephanos says we want a 5-6 goal to restore our confidence as a contender. Fair. Sash. Pies have to make it a shit fight, not perfect, and use their smarts. Get the tempo of the game on their terms, then we'll see the Pies system work. Bang. Whatever happens to playing the minutes, we'll find out. Dylan says, thoughts on the midfield battle? I'm pumped for Dacos versus Jason Horne-Francis. Look, I'm keen to see how they go in their own right, but I probably wouldn't like to see those two playing on each other in the centre bounce. I think Port Adelaide would relish that opportunity. I don't think Nick Dacos or Collingwood fans would like Nick Dacos to be playing on Jason Horne-Francis. I'm sure we'll see it at some point. I was just talking before about the matchups with JHF, and I think I'd love to see like a Jack Crisp and a Bo McCreary do a job on Jason Horne-Francis throughout the game. Bo played a little bit of midfield in the last quarter, as too did Jack Crisp. So we definitely have that in our back pocket to try. I mean, you're not going to put someone in midfield in any AFL game if you don't have an idea for wanting them to maybe feature a little bit more in there or try something different. And I think we might already need to try something different. And people say, oh, it's just one game. It's just one game. Yes, I understand that. But at the same time, the problem that we saw in the midfield on Sunday is, or even around the stoppages where Finn was breaking out and no one could keep up with him. It reminds me of certain games from last year and over long courses throughout the season. So I'd like to see us be proactive, and at least if we're not going to make personnel changes as far as ins and outs are concerned, I'd like to see us make some positional changes within our midfield. Like we all know and Fly preaches about needing to be able to play multiple different positions if you play for Collingwood. Well, then show us, actions speak louder than words. If you want players to play in different positions to be able to do that, then why aren't we trying Bo McCreary or Jack Crisp on a JHF on Saturday? Peter says, with Port's lack of tall forwards, what about McInnes do a run with Roland Horne-Francis? I highly doubt Reef has the tank. I know Reef is quite fast off the mark. He won his 20-meter sprint in the draft combine way back in 2021. But, you still need you need midfield craft, which he doesn't. I know he played as a midfielder as an underager, but to do it at AFL level is different. He hasn't trained there all preseason, let alone his AFL career. He doesn't have the midfield craft and probably doesn't have the tank to keep up with someone like Horne-Francis, and the agility, which is another thing. Horne-Francis has this perfect balance of his athletic profile. He's fast. He's got an engine. He's sharp. He can take you forward. So who's someone who can go forward with him? Well, Jack Crisp can probably go forward with him and just stick with him for the majority of the game. If Bo McCreary gets taken into the back line, you probably wouldn't want that. Although Bo also has some pretty good ground ball tackling pressure as well, mind you. I just worry about how he goes aerially against a Jason Horne-Francis. So I don't know if Bo would necessarily follow JHF, Jason Horne-Francis, into our backline. Matty, how you going, mate? DC needs Cox to be his backup ruckman. McStay needs to stay forward. I hope we see Hayes and Parker soon. Willem Drew, yeah. So Mark, I think that's likely. So Ken Hinkley was asked about that, but he was he kept his cards close to his chest. Old mate Ken Hinkley is the man full of wisdom. He didn't make any suggestions to the media, but I'm sure we'll get a good serving of Willem Drew on Nick Dacos on Saturday. Dom says we can't wait for Reef to come good. Darcy needs help, which is true. I've been saying for the longest time I would have liked Reef to earn his stripes at VFL level as a defender. Take someone experienced from the forward line into the back line that could potentially do a job. But if Reef, like I said, if someone like Reef gets dropped tonight, that's just shows you have no faith in someone who you've put in a whole preseason into. So, but there is that argument. It's like, well, we are, we don't have the luxury of 5-6 weeks of results that don't go our way just because we need someone to mold into their position. Yeah, Bergman is their go-to man on the outside. So, Peter, Collingwood have an issue with outside players. Collingwood concede the most amount of possessions to halfback flankers. Lockie Ash and Lockie Whitfield both had over 25 disposals on Sunday. You look at Bergman, Finlayson, these types of players who will have the ball in an uncontested possession situation, and that's where I'm worried. That's where I feel like, and Port Adelaide have a good kicking game. They're not the biggest team to play on and give a handball to oncoming players. I'm sure they still do that, of course, but compared to the league, compared to GWS were a top 4 side with handball receives last year, and we saw that on the weekend. Port are below average as far as their volume of handball receives are concerned. So, actually, sorry, that might be a lie. I'm pretty sure. Look, whatever it is, they have the highest kicking percentage in the league. Therefore, you're going to expect less handballs from a team like Port. Dion says, I want to see effort running both ways. Me too, mate. Yeah, it's something we're definitely going to keep an eye on. Yeah, Ken, I talked about Maynard's car crash at the start of the stream, if you want to go back to that, but it wasn't too comprehensive. I mean, look, thankfully, everyone that was involved in that car accident is fine. I said, Bruzzy's a beast. You can't hurt him. You put him through a brick wall and he'll be fine. Like he'll find a way to show up. Matthew Kennedy would be a perfect fit. It was at the Bulldogs now, unfortunately. Nick Wilson says, insert Mason. Nearly got me there. It was this morning, you stick. Any chance of Ollie Lord coming to Collingwood next year? I think, if anything, Ollie Lord has heritage at Geelong. So if it'll be good to keep an eye on him, and because he'll be playing against us, and I'll be keen to see how he goes over the course of the season as well. But I think, if he was to go anywhere other than remain at Port Adelaide, he would go to Geelong. But this season, as of right now, with that Todd Marshall, with that Charlie Dixon, and no Radigolia on the weekend, someone like Ollie Lord and Georgiades have a real opportunity to take their game to the next level and solidify them two as a powerful duo forward to center. The last time Drew tagged Nakos, the little master had a lazy 40 disposals. Nick Dacos loves playing against Port Adelaide. Let's have a look. Just from memory. I know he absolutely loves playing against Port Adelaide. Let's see. Disposal average. So he averages 27 disposals. He's kicked 3 goals in 3 games. Has he got any Brownlow votes? He's collected 4 Brownlow votes out of a possible 4 games against Port. He's 4-0 against Port. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides that Nick Dacos he still remains undefeated against. And that's Adelaide, Fremantle. Remember we had a draw against Fremantle, which he was a part of. North Melbourne, which is no surprise there, and Port Adelaide. 4 wins, 0 losses for old mate Nick Dacos against Port Adelaide. So, yeah, 27 disposals. His favourite team by far and away is Adelaide. He's averaged 33 disposals, kicked 4 goals in 5 games, and he's got 8 Brownlow votes out of a possible, 15 from 5 games against the same team. His most amount of Brownlow votes has been against Gold Coast. 9 votes in 4 games. So 9 votes out of a possible 12 is bloody ridiculous. We need to fix our full ground defensive system and get back to keeping teams to a low score. We are too easy to move the ball against. Yeah, they sort of just chip their way up, or there's many ways to penetrate Collingwood at the moment, and like based on the game we saw on the weekend. However, now that we're at the G, we know how to defend the ground, we know how to play the ground. There's no excuses. We gave him the mulligan, and now we need to see an instant response from the boys. Richard says, no one will be dropped, only forced changes due to injury. So that's 1 in Will Hoskin-Elliott and maybe Josh Dacos. Jeremy Howe's a test. Fly reckons Josh Dacos is more of a test than Jeremy Howe, though. So Jezza will probably, hopefully, get through, but Josh Dacos will find out tomorrow at the captain's run. Burgoyne as well. Jace Burgoyne, bloody hell. Yeah, I'm worried about Jason Burgoyne. He had a really good end to his second half of his year last year. And was probably one of the better players in the final series for Port Adelaide. Jason Burgoyne. AFL, it's Jace Burgoyne. Let's see. What did he do? What did he do in his last few games? So he had 14-1 against Geelong in the loss. He had 25-1 against Hawthorn and 19-1 against Sydney in that preliminary final loss. So, yeah, he actually, in totality, had a really good season in general. He played he barely missed a game after round 3. So he's someone we're going to keep an eye on tonight, Saturday. Henry says, learn to speak English properly. What's wrong? You don't understand the words I'm using or my pronunciation? If it's my pronunciation, I apologize. Not really, but I'm wearing Invisalign, so sometimes the words don't come off well. But if you wanna come have a chat, Henry, you're welcome to jump on and see if you can do a better job than me. I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Come on, Pies, let's go, Rob. Looking back at a trade, would we prefer Taranto than Tom Mitchell? I remember we were linked to Taranto before Tom Mitchell. Well, no, because Tom Mitchell was critical in our premiership season, and he was good in moments last year while nursing that foot injury. So I think we got what we wanted from Tom Mitchell, and he did everything we needed. We would have had to have given up quite a bit for Tim Taranto at the time. What's it looking like for De Goey? Any word on when he's back, says Jacob. So Jacob, he had Fly after the game against GWS said he's got a lot to get through to be available for Port Adelaide. But then he said, we're just not going to rush him in his press conference yesterday or the day before. Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So I would have to guess by the language that the coach is using, I would guess that we're probably not going to get Jordan De Goey until the game against Carlton, which is in a few weeks' time. So we have Port Adelaide on Saturday. We have Western Bulldogs next Friday. And then we have a bye. And then Jordan De Goey will all but most certainly return on the Thursday game, for the Thursday game against Carlton. When Darcy Moore is out of form, so are we. He's a barometer, needs to step up and attack. Look, he could have done better in some one-on-one situations, take a couple more marks rather than punching it, or sometimes you try to take the mark and would drop it. I just want to see him try take more marks. I mean, he took 4 intercept marks, but had he been a little bit cleaner in that first half, he could have had just as many intercept marks as Sam Taylor. He just wasn't as effective with his ability to clunk those marks out from the air. Wouldn't we love another Lee Brown, Mr. Fix that can play anywhere? We need Magin. I wonder if we didn't drop him, if he would make the best 22 this year. Is that tongue in cheek, Steve? Steve-O. We are 4 minutes away from the team being announced. Do you really think they're going to make changes after one game? So, Chris, I was saying, look, you prefer not to, because we've put so much time and effort in playing certain players in certain positions and working on a certain system that involves the group that played on Sunday. However, like I said, stranger things have happened. You probably look, if there's anyone that's in strife, you probably say Tim Membry for the sake of Mason Cox. Chris, Ken Hinkley said in his conference that they're probably going to roll with a Jordan Sweet and an Ivan Soldo. So that's 2 genuine ruckmen. I'd like to see Mason Cox assist Darcy Cameron in the ruck against those 2 ruckmen, because they'll try and outwork DC. And I just think I think we need McStay in the forward line. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We got McStay to play forward, not to play 30% of his time in the ruck. You know what I mean? Let's see. Anything trending on Twitter here? All right. Let's go. Let's get the AFL app website open. Are they playing mind games? Maybe. Ken Hinkley likes to keep his cards close to his chest, some would say. So, potentially. Let's share this screen. All right, let's do that. So, Ella de Andres, 2 minutes till the teams are announced. What do you reckon? Unchanged? Besides what? Hoskin Elliott being unavailable means Houston comes in. But besides that, anything else? Yeah, Mace might need a week or two. The problem is he'll probably only have to play. He'll only be able to play in practice matches. It won't be any official matches. Well, I mean, VFL season starts for Collingwood in 9 days. So if he isn't selected today in a minute, then yeah, he'll play a practice match in the VFL if deemed fit enough. So let's go lineups. Is Josh available? We'll find out, Chris, but he is a test tomorrow at the captain's run. So even if he's listed, he may be a late withdrawal. Will Hoskin Elliott for Houston. I think Howe's only watch, otherwise we're good. Fly said that Howe is closer to playing than Josh Dacos. He said that in his press conference yesterday. Let's refresh. We're very close to the team being announced. I'm just going to constantly refresh this until we have some intel. Need to drop Reef, says Evan. Refresh. Come on. All right. Oh, there you go. In Dan Houston, Lockie Sullivan, out Will Hoskin-Elliott, Ed Allan. It doesn't say whether he's been omitted. Will the Collingwood website have any news on this yet? See quickly. No. So I guess we're just trying to look. It's disappointing for Ed Allan if he's being dropped because he looked okay in that first half. It just seems like horses for courses. We probably want to look a little bit faster around the field, and Lockie Sullivan has trained really well throughout the course of the preseason. So that's probably what that's going to be. Who's the emergencies? Ed Allan, yeah. So Ed Allan has actually been dropped because he's listed as an emergency here. Billy Frampton, emergency. Ash Johnson, not too far off it. Mason Cox, not in the emergencies, which means they probably just want to get some fitness into him in the VFL. So they do end up going with one ruckman, Port Adelaide. So Soldo is listed as an emergency, and they're going to go with Jordan Sweet. So there's that. How do we feel about that? Yeah, tough call. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we play against our old mate Joe Richards. But yeah, disappointing for Ed Allan, but we needed to speed up somewhere, and I guess that's where it's going to be. I don't know. I'm torn about that one. Allan needs minutes. Allan may come back in for Josh Dacos, reckons Peter. So Ned keeps his spot above all. I think when you come on and have the type of impact that Ned Long had against GWS, you probably earn your spot. So does that mean who will be the sub? Would it be a Ned Long, or would it be a Lockie Sullivan? Maybe you start with Ned Long to play in the Ed Allan position, and then you bring Lockie Sullivan on to inject him into the field for speed. So that's that would be bittersweet if Richards was going to have a blinder against us. Yeah, we need to kick it straight as well. We had opportunities. We had a bunch of scoring shots. We just didn't convert. So, yeah. Nick needs help in the middle. Sullivan is okay. At least there's a fight in the middle. Yeah, I don't know if Sullivan will start. You'd think if Ed Allan started on the weekend, just by this logic, if Ed Allan started on the weekend, then you're probably thinking Ned Long starts, and then Lockie Sullivan comes on later in the game to inject some speed into the side. Or Ned Long is just going to be that perpetual super sub. Could be that as well, right? Could be that as well. That's the side. Rather Oleg than Reef. So, Evie, I'm pretty sure that Markov is out for like 3 or 4 weeks with a calf injury. He was probably going to play against GWS, but then sustained a calf injury in the main session. So, unfortunately, he's going to have to wait a little bit longer on the sidelines. He was going to play. What do you guys think? Who starts, Ned Long or Sullivan? Yeah, Cox is not an emergency, so he's probably just going to get his minutes up in a VFL practice match. Yeah. There's nothing really that's sort of catching my eye as far as the lineup. The lineup is always misleading because that doesn't, how it is lined up right now won't be how it looks on the weekend. But I do like the look of Jack Crisp mentioned in the middle. Josh Dacos mentioned in the middle as well in the center. So is there anything to read into there? Josh Dacos listed in the center. It's in the center. Jack Crisp and Nick Dacos as the other on ballers. Peter reckons Sullivan will start. Interesting. Prefers Sullivan over Long. Splitting hairs though. Yeah, I agree. No news on Tommy Mitchell. I reckon we probably won't see him till close to halfway through the year. Like, he's still getting through a pretty good block in full training at training, but they're probably going to take it slow with him. They don't want to rush it. Perriman halfback. Could be. So pair him into halfback and Josh Dacos in the middle could be a look as well. Look, we all know not to read into this too much, but hey, if Fly makes some adjustments positionally wise, I'm not mad at that. It means he's trying things. Sullivan doesn't have that go get it mongrel about him. You're not on him, says Ken. Yep, fair enough. So that's that. What's the rest of the league saying as far as the announcements are concerned? Come on. Latest news. Teams. All right, let's see. Fremantle will be without Shea Bolton and Walters. Bailey Smith will debut for Geelong. Riley Bice, a bit of a tongue twister there. Tom Green is back for GWS. Wow. And Larky has been named. Geez. Tom Green, Josh Kelly, and Finn Callahan. Problems. Jack Martin, that is not named for Geelong. Harrison Jones is fit. Darcy Fort will play for the Lions. Lukosius and Richards will play against Port. That's pretty much the gist of it, isn't it? Let's see. There you go. Ed Allan could come back in Josh's position this week if injured. Maybe swap in and out of wing with Steele. Yeah, I was saying earlier, like with the way Fly and the selection panel and the team that manages the trades, the lepers, the moving forward, you'll have who's the bloke who was under Geelong's, I forget his name, who's come to Collingwood as part of to be a recruitment officer. We've brought players in who are versatile and can play multiple positions. We need to see something like that on the weekend. We need to see our versatility being deployed at the G against Port, because whatever it was on the weekend, it didn't work super well. So we sort of got to strap up and get the ball rolling and make some changes. Shane O'Brien, there you go. Thank you. Yeah, Shane O'Brien, who was under Stephen Wells at Geelong, and he's the mastermind behind their list, just forever staying within relevance. Yeah, so interesting that. Sully, to do most of the grunt work, has had more continuity with the midfield group. Yeah, he missed bits and pieces of pre-season, doing some work on the sidelines, but when he has been involved in training, he's looked good. So, Anthony, going to the game and pre-game, what are you doing? So at like 4:30, I'm going to do a pre-game show with my brother, and then we're going to head in. I don't know what time I'll get there. What are you doing? Are you going? We are, where are we? Let me check my iPhone wallet. So we'll be going to the game. I'm in section M8, Dry Bay, wherever that is. No idea where that is. I'm not very familiar with when it comes to the sections of the MCG. But yeah, that's where I am. Pink Lemonade, says Peter G. Is that the spot? Is that the spot where everyone goes? Pink Lemonade. Can't say I've been there. I know it's right by the station. But I'm not sure how long before the game I'll get there. Usually what I like to do is I like getting to the game and then just sitting where we're seated and just sort of watch the G fill up, watch the boys warm up, sort of just ease into it. Pink Lemonade in Richmond at 5:30 onwards, then walking to the G. M16. So I would imagine, is M16 not too far away from M8? Not too far? Yeah. Chris, I think Collingwood will win? I hope so, mate. Do you? Do you think Collingwood will win? I hope so. Fingers crossed. Yeah, hopefully Nick doesn't cramp. I think he'll be right. M16 AFL members. Yeah. I think I'm an AFL member. No, I don't know. I don't know what I am, to be honest. I know I pay for some membership. Maybe I'm a Collingwood member. I've got the scarf and all that sort of stuff. Does that make me a Collingwood member or an AFL member? You know? M16 is right at the gate. Yeah. I've got no clue, bro. No clue. But okay. So I'm an AFL member then, apparently. Is that frowned upon? Is it frowned upon to be an AFL member? Genuine question. Like, would you rather be a Collingwood member? Jacob, are you going to the Anzac Day match? I don't have tickets. So I've got tickets for Port, Bulldogs, and Carlton. What card do I have, bro? I don't have a card. I don't have a card. I actually don't know. What am I? I am probably like a silver member. This is my 2024 membership. Does that give you anything? Does that tell you anything? So M8 is club. So I'm a club member. Okay. So what is it like? Is it frowned upon to be an AFL member or not? Like, is it better to be a member of your club or the AFL? Or it doesn't matter? It's neither here nor there. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about that. It's the same. Fair enough. Does anybody else just want Richmond to put on a show tonight? AFL Gold, so much better than club membership. Those stickers are given to everyone. AFL is the best. Okay. I suppose you just have more access to all the games, the G, regardless of what club you support. Better seats. Better seats on the wing. Any news on Ash Johnson, says Dom? It can be the difference if firing. Well, he's listed as an emergency, so it sounds like he's not too far off. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Allan dropped. It's disappointing, but goodness, what do you do? If Richmond win, I'll do my next video on a Richmond top. So does that mean you have a Richmond top at home, or are you gonna have to go to the AFL store and pick one up? Could you imagine the scenes if Carlton lost tonight? That would be... What time is that? Is that like 7:40, 7:50? Let's check. 7:30. Okay. 7:30. 7:30. If Richmond win, I'll do my next video. Richmond top. That's jokes. Oh, when do Anzac tickets go on sale? How can you get one? You're asking the wrong person, but I'm sure people in the chat will be able to help you with that for sure. Can somebody help out Jacob? When do Anzac tickets go on sale? I'm pretty sure they already went on sale, no? They would have gone on sale already, no? Carlton Tigers, boo the Blues. There you go. There you go. So the agenda, guys, moving forward. So tomorrow we'll do a Pies presser. We'll do that at 6 p.m. So that's, like I said, for those who are joining the stream now, that is a Collingwood news update every day that there isn't a Moving the Magnets, a pre-game show or post-game show. AFL member Anzac Day tickets go on sale in a few weeks. Okay, cool. I'll try my best to get a hand on some Anzac Day tickets. That would be nice, wouldn't it? It falls on a Friday as well, I believe. So a long weekend beginning from the Friday. That'd be nice. So, yeah. But yeah, so we'll have the Pies presser tomorrow at 6 p.m. before the Friday night game between Essendon and Hawthorn, which will be a cracker. And then Saturday, we'll have the pre-game show, post-game show. Sunday, we'll have a Pies presser and a review. Fan takeaways as well will be here. And while we're all here, guys, if you'd like to support the channel, you can support by becoming a member of the channel. You get early access to the preview, reviews, and generally more over anything, you just are supporting the channel. And as you can imagine, guys, a lot of time and effort goes into this channel. So if you want to support the channel by way of monetary value, there is the link there. But at the very least, your presence is appreciated. So, guys, I'm going to leave you with that, and we'll see you in 24 hours' time for the Pies presser, and we can talk about all the latest Collingwood news and developments from the selection that was tonight. Go Pies.